On this first episode of Empower, I sit down with Courtney Jewell, a 29-year-old Atlanta native embarking on a journey of single motherhood through IVF. We discuss her choice to be a single mom as well as her process of looking for a donor. We also look into postpartum depression fears, hiring a doula, and so much more. Listen to her inspirational story. Welcome to the Empower Show. I'm sitting down with 29-year-old Courtney Jewell from Atlanta, and I'm sharing her story today of single motherhood through IVF. First, I want to start out with, I think a lot of people run from the idea of single motherhood. They think to them that is kind of like, well, I don't want to be a single mom, or my marriage broke up and now I'm a single mom and I don't know how am I going to do this. What makes someone actually choose that situation versus being in a relationship?
So I've always been in a relationship, always. But I've always wanted to be a mom since I was a teenager, because I'm so close to my mom and she was a teen mom. Well, I've been an egg donor. So finally I was like, I'm going to get to this age where it's either going to be a problem and I'm going to find myself where those moms are, or I could just give this to myself and not wait for somebody else to give it to me. Exactly. So that's how I came up ultimately with doing IVF, in addition to a lot of support from friends and family.
And so what was that moment where you finally said, I'm not going down this traditional path? Like, where do you remember, like, where you were? Like, where it hit you that you were like, this traditional way is just not, it's not going to work for me right now because I want this now.
Yeah. I was with an ex, and we were not going to work out. Like, we were best friends, but we were not romantic at all. Everybody knew it. We knew it. We were just like more companions, and we lived together. And I was like, you know what? I'm single now, essentially, and I'm going to have a baby. So I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to look for a donor. So I got online and I found a fertility clinic, and I set up a consultation appointment, and I told him about it, and he wanted in on it. He was like, well, we could co-parent. Like, we could just be friends, like maybe we could do it together. And I was like, okay. So we explored that, and then it didn't end up working out, and I just kept on the path. Like, I was like, I'm doing this. This is my choice. This is what I want. I'm not waiting on another guy, because I'd had failed relationship after failed relationship. So I just decided, like, this is for me, and that's it. Nobody else can really take it from me or give it to me.
Right. So were there any sort of immediate thoughts that kind of went through your mind when you said to yourself, I'm going to go down this route, which is not the traditional route, regardless if you had support from friends or family? What were some things, did you battle it all mentally?
Yes, I still do.
Okay. Tell me about that.
For me, it was always like, am I going to be able to give my child everything it needs with just myself? Especially if it's a boy, because I battled with that before I found out it's a boy. And I was like, is this okay if I could single parent and essentially not give that child a chance to have co-parenting in its life, to just have me? I'm the only one. I mean, whatever I believe, whatever I teach it comes from me. There's no partner. There's no conversation about, we're both going to raise it this way. I feel like it takes a village. That's what everybody says.
It absolutely does.
So yes. And, I was worried about the support, if it would even be there at all.
Well, let me honestly ask you this. Do you have a father?
I do. I have 3 dads.
Hello. All right.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay. So was there a birth father and then like different relationship with your mom had?
Yes.
2 different.
Yeah. So I don't know my real dad.
Okay.
And then my sister's dad raised me, but now my mom's married to the one that I would, like, if I were to get married, he would walk me down the aisle, basically. Okay. So to sum it up.
So an interesting thing, and the reason I wanted to know if you had a dad, especially, your birth father, you said to yourself, is there anything, like, I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to give everything to my child, especially if he's a boy, and you just recently found out that you're having a boy.
Yes.
Now, I just want to ask you the question, since you didn't know your birth father, did you get everything that you needed?
100%.
Well, then I think you have your answer. That,
yes.
He can get everything that he needs. It may not come down the traditional path,
Right.
but it's possible. So
Exactly.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
shine that little nugget of light on you.
No,
Wanted to bring
it's
the
true.
conversation 360
Yeah,
for you.
it's true. And I mean, my mom is my best friend. We do everything together. We have the same job. We've had the same job for like a decade, even if it's different jobs. And she was always like, we were always a team, and she did it, and she did it through different relationships. She was with my sister's dad. She was basically alone anyway. Like, it wasn't that sort of like happy familial mother and dad are always there kind of thing. It was always like my mom, and then he was out of town or something.
Okay.
So yeah, I would, if I were to like write a book about what I'm doing, I would probably dedicate it to my mom for sure.
Oh, that is so sweet. And I'm assuming she's super supportive.
She is so supportive.
Probably like, oh my God, I'm going to have a little grandbaby.
Yes.
That's so
And she has all girls and all sisters, so this is
Oh,
going to
so
be a
this
learning
is going to
experience.
be super refreshing for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know anything about IVF. Okay. So,
Okay.
and for the listeners that really never had an issue with maybe getting pregnant, not that you have an issue with getting pregnant, but what is that process like? You find a clinic and you walk in and you say, I want a baby. Is there some sort of like, do they interview you? I mean, what? And you know what? The other thing is, what's the cost as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I feel like it's supposed to work that way. You're supposed to find a clinic, you go in, you tell them you want to have a baby, and they're supposed to be all about it. So with me, that wasn't really the case. I'll tell you, my first clinic, they were incredibly judgmental. Like, they did not like me. I don't know why. They didn't want me to have a baby by myself. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just that like traditional Southern Bible Belt mentality. I have no idea. So I found them and it was off. It just wasn't working. I just felt like they didn't like me, and I felt judged all the time, and I didn't want that energy around me.
No.
So I was looking for a donor simultaneously while I was working with this clinic, and I did do IUI with them.
No, what is IUI?
IUI is intrauterine insemination. So that's when they wait till you ovulate, or they make you ovulate, and then they just put the sperm in like you would be having sex, and then you're supposed to get pregnant. It's definitely a cheaper way. It costs about, I would say, about $2,500 per month if you try consecutively months. So I did that a couple times and it didn't work. And I was like, well, maybe it's the clinic. Like, maybe it's just not lining up. So I found my donor, which is also expensive because you have to pay several hundreds of dollars for every website you want to see profiles and photos of a donor. Okay. So after like 9 websites and probably $3,000 in just finding a donor, I found a donor. And that process.
Did you, before, is this the only route you went for donor? Did you talk to any? Okay.
Well, the ex-boyfriend, he wanted in on it, but other than that, no. I don't know anybody that, I decided like if I was going to do this, I didn't want to mix up somebody else that I knew or that could know me, because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all alone, like completely 100% detached from anybody. So, when I was looking for the donor and spending all this money and not finding the right one, I was almost settling. Like, I would find them and I would be like, well, the features are here and maybe it'll get these features from him and these from me, and like trying to almost like think about it in some sort of like, I don't know, fantasy way, you know, where like hopefully it works out. And I was settling, and then finally I found my donor. And I was like, I would sleep with this guy. Like, that makes sense. This is the donor. Why would I pick a donor that I didn't think I would sleep with and have a baby with naturally? Right. So I found my donor, and then I switched clinics, and I was extremely accepted at my new clinic. Like, they were amazing from the start. I loved my doctor. She loved me. She was all supportive about it. And cost-wise, cost me probably about $22,000 or $23,000 to do it. From start? Total. Yeah, from the start. And as far as the interview process goes, the first clinic, they made me do they made me go to like a psychologist and get screened. And they made me talk to a lawyer about like legality and like if someone else were to come in the picture later. And I just thought that was all kind of weird and like didn't really make sense because I'm doing this by
it,
myself.
did you feel like it was being like it was almost intrusive on your children?
That and I trusted them, so I was like, well, obviously this is necessary in the state of Georgia. But I switched to my new clinic and I was like, do I have to redo the psychological evaluation? And she's like, we don't require that. Nobody requires that. And I was like, that's weird because they made me basically pass this test saying that I wasn't completely insane for having my own baby at the other clinic.
Well, here's the thing though. I will say, I know sometimes I take a look around me and I go, there's just people that should not have children.
Yes.
There is, you know what I mean? And so, regarding that, I think the screening's great, you know, because
Totally.
it could be someone who is just maybe has the financial availability to do that, but maybe they're just not right. Like they're just, you know what I mean? And maybe it would be kind of detrimental to a child. So I think it's good, but obviously when you personalize it and for you, you're like I'm a fully functioning adult. I'm good. So it's kind of like, it feels like a little bit of an insult. So
yeah, I see both sides of it.
Okay, so you found your donor, you saw his face, you saw the credentials. What were you looking for? Like in your mind when you were like, okay, obviously there was an attraction, so you're like, okay, I would actually sleep with this person. But what else were you looking for?
Family history was huge for me. Negative for all of the major tests, like all of the mental disease and illnesses and stuff like that. Not a carrier at all, even though I'm not a carrier. So scientifically, if you're not a carrier and you match up with someone that is, the baby's not going to have any of those things. But I was like, let's just eliminate everything because why not? In family history, I was really looking at mothers, fathers, sisters, grandparents, when they died, if they're still alive, if there's any cancer or infertility in the family, or if they're overweight, stuff like that. I just wanted it to, across the board, be 100% healthy. Like that was first and foremost my everything that I thought was most important for finding a donor. Genes were second to that, I would say, but they were a big deal.
But yeah. So was there? Can you talk about maybe aesthetically what you were kind of drawn to, or
height? I wanted height in case it was a boy. And I wanted dark hair and dark eyes. My donor, he's tall, dark, and handsome.
Well, that's great. I'm glad that that you found your match, and apparently he's super healthy.
Yes, he's very healthy.
Yeah. So tell me about the support from your friends and in your family when you brought it up. What was maybe an initial reaction?
So when I first brought it up to my first friend, Jessica, who I worked with, she is a single mom. Her and her husband actually co-parent, similar to you. Like they live close to each other. They're nailing it. They're friends. Like it's perfect. And she was a huge influence in my life at that time. Like I'm convinced she came in to my life like at this time for a reason. And the universe put her there. And she was like, I told her what I wanted to do. And she was like, you know my situation. You've seen it yourself. She was like, this is perfect for you. This is exactly what you need to do. It makes so much sense. You're going to nail it no matter what. So she gave me like a lot of encouragement, and I was like, I got this. Like, this is not crazy. So, you know, the first person I told wasn't like, what are you doing? And then obviously I talked to my mom about it, and my mom is super thrilled because of what she went through. She's been through a lot in relationships. Like, she was all for it because she's like, the perks are you don't have to involve somebody else's opinions, beliefs, feelings, demands at all. You're never going to have a custody battle. And I'm terrified of a custody battle. Like, it's the last thing that I wanted was to be put in that situation where you've got to go through that and the kid has to go through that. And it's been awful for people that I've seen go through it.
It totally is. It totally is. It's absolutely awful. Yeah, no, I mean, I was lucky enough that I didn't, go through a custody battle. He and I from the get-go, it was like, it's 50-50. You know what I mean? Like, it's 50-50 custody.
Which is rare.
Yeah, I know. But, it's like, here's my whole thought process. My son's father is a great father. He's not perfect, but he's so committed to being the best father that he can be. So that's number one. And number two, my son needs his father just as much as he needs me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, it's kind of like it would have been, I mean, unless, he was some sort of threat or he, like it
Hmm.
wasn't good for my son to be around him, then that's a different story. But that's not the case. So I think it would be pretty kind of selfish of me to go, well, I'm his mom
Absolutely.
and I know best, and whatever, you work and you travel and I work from home, so I should have. No, it's like but my son, should have both. I think, and
Yeah.
that's really interesting too, because as a mom myself, and my son's 5, I see the importance firsthand of my son having me and having his father. So how are you going to navigate that with your son?
So I've been documenting everything up front.
Mm.
I've saved pictures of the donor, and I have like a letter he wrote about why he's a donor, which I related to because I was an egg donor.
That is absolutely awesome. The fact that he
Yes.
wrote a letter as to why.
And you should see the letter. Like I mean, you would like fall in love with him. Like I'm kind of in love with him.
Maybe you guys
um,
need to meet. That's
so it's incredible. So I have that, and I have the photos, and I actually spent days online trying to find any baby book that wasn't all around mothers and fathers. So I found a single mom, like a modern single mom book, and I'm just going to document everything. And as far as the conversation goes with the baby when he's older, I mean, I'm just huge on honesty. Like my mom was always so honest with me, probably sometimes when she shouldn't have been, but it was always for the better, and it always benefited me and both of us in our relationship. So I feel like if I'm doing this on my own and we're all each other's going to have to rely on, we've got to have this super open, honest relationship. So I'm just going to tell him this is what happened, and hopefully when you grow up and you find a woman, you'll want one as independent and as strong or maybe crazy as I am.
No, I mean, I think it's a wonderful, I think that there's, being a single mom, like you said, and especially in your situation, there's perks and there's drawbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's never a situation that it's just the best. So I think that going into it with that sort of honesty and openness, and I mean, not necessarily going into when he's 2 and he can hardly talk, and you're like, your dad was a donor. I mean, no, it's not appropriate. But
Right.
when that moment comes, that he will say, well, wait, where's my dad? Because
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
kids go to school and they see what's around them, it's like, well, wait, where's this?
Absolutely.
Where's that? And so, yeah, I think having that sense of ready to be honest and ready to be just supportive, really, for whatever feelings come up, because he's going to have feelings about it one way or another,
For sure.
but again, having that love and having that support around him, whether it comes from his grandmother or it comes from his mom and his aunt, and he has this kind of village, I think that's really important.
Me too.
Something that my therapist has said to me one time when I was in the process of going, of Jeremy and I splitting up, she said, my first concern was like, I don't want to fuck up my child.
Yeah.
I don't want to fuck my child up.
Same.
But I knew in my heart and in my gut and really to the core of my being that the marriage just wasn't right.
And not worth it to be
and
that.
weren't,
Yeah.
yeah.
That.
And so, she said to me, Jen, you never promised to give your son a perfect life, but you've promised to give him the best life that you can. And so it's really true. It's like, you know what, you're right. I think being a parent, and this is so good for you to know, even up front, is you are going to constantly, I think it's natural, you're going to constantly want perfection for your child. You're going to constantly want, am I doing the best? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? You're comparing, you're going to compare. It's going to come up. You know what I mean? So just know that your son, he's not going to have a perfect life, and know that from the bat. I've really gotten to that place where I've been like, you know what? I don't want to waste so much energy, trying to make my son's life perfect, because it's not going to be.
Yeah.
There's so many external things that are out of my control that it doesn't matter if I was like the perfect mom, whatever the fuck that is, the perfect mom, that he's not going to experience some sort of sadness, loss. So I think the thing is, if you can make a commitment that you're going to be the best that you can be, and that you're going to love your child through whatever they experience, that's more important than having a perfect whatever that is,
Exactly.
And I know a lot of people would say, a son needs his father. It's a selfish thing. I mean, I can hear my dad if I were to tell my father, Dad, I'm getting IVF and my dad loves me, but he's very religious. And so I'm not saying that there's not a place for a mother and a father. There are, but sometimes it's just not that way for whatever
Right.
reason, but it doesn't mean that that child can't thrive.
Agreed.
So girl, I just want to tell you that you are going to come up against difficulties. There's going to be moments, I'm sure, where you're like, man, I wish maybe I did have a partner right now for whatever reason, but you can get through it and you will get through it.
Yeah.
Even with, even though Jeremy is still in my son's life and I talk to him every day, 3 times a day and all of that, there still are moments that I have with my son that I'm like, I don't have that nuclear thing going on here. And it's okay.
It's fine.
Yeah. Our thing is our thing. And that's what makes it unique. So enough about me. Anyway. Oh my goodness.
No, I mean, it's true. I'm just going to tell him he came from like so much love, because it's true. I mean, he's so wanted, so I feel like that's to go on the little advantage side of my list.
And I think that's such an important thing. Feeling wanted and feeling important for a child. I know there was a lack of, not that my parents didn't want me, they did, but they had their own troubles when I was really young.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things missing. So regardless, if you had this nuclear family situation, it doesn't always mean a child feels wanted. So the fact that you want him and that there's this support around you and these people are like, we want him, like we want to be here for him, like that to me is what's important. Just
exactly.
like when people bring up, I'm a huge supporter and I'm very vocal about it, even with my company and my brand and my modern motherhood movement is, modern motherhood is not just about straight motherhood. Modern motherhood is about gay motherhood. It's about straight motherhood. It's about single motherhood. It's about whatever the motherhood is for that person. And all of that needs to be recognized. So whether or not you agree with same-sex marriage or same-sex relationship, how wanted is that child?
Exactly.
How loved is that child?
Exactly. I know.
I mean, talk about love for a minute. It's like love is what matters.
I mean, that's what drove me to be an egg donor. I've donated to gay couples, straight couples, single parents, everyone. So, and I never disqualified somebody from being a parent based on their relationship status. That's not a qualifying factor to be a good mom or a good dad.
Like, is there a lot of love? Like, even if, maybe the child is growing up in the minority, so to speak, that generally speaking, it is women and men together having families. Yeah. And maybe he is going to be a little confused for a little bit of time, but at the end of the day, he's going to get through it. Again, it's about being present for the child and being ready to help them through experiences.
Yes.
Are they loved? Are they supported? They're going to get through it.
Yeah. It's going to be fine.
Right.
I keep telling myself it's going to be fine.
It is. But, and this is another thing. So I know before the interview even started, I asked you, I said, okay, I get it. You're a single mom, so you don't have the partner thing going on. And I'm sure that when you go into labor, you're going to have like your mom there and maybe certain support things. But I really you need to think about a doula. So you can go ahead and ask me why.
I need all the information. Tell me why.
So I just really promote a doula because it not only do I think that their support is amazing, but it was my experience too. And having my doula actually had nothing to do with about advocating for me, which I think some people think that that's really kind of just what it is, but it's not. Jeremy, my son's father, when we were together, I will say for everything that maybe didn't go right for us, he was like the perfect person to be there for me when my son was born. He was, and the best way I can describe it was he was this steady, silent strength. And it was like he was just there. He was there. His presence was there, but he never, put his presence on me. He'd let me lead. He just was there. So it wasn't like I had a partner that was annoying or that was trying to micromanage my delivery and it was just get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
He was great. But the doula it brought a feminine energy to the experience that, and this is why I'm such a huge fan of like women supporting women. I think from however the fuck we were made or however us humans came about, there is something about, the feminine energy being together and also kind of surrounding each other. There is a strength in that, unlike I don't think that a man can do.
Yeah.
Not that a man's part is not important, because Jeremy's was extremely important to me.
Right.
But there was something about, I remember I was like laboring for a couple hours before she got there. And I remember she got there and it was like, she just slipped in. Like, I didn't even know, like, it wasn't like, knock, knock, hey, she just slipped in and I was on the couch and I was just going through contractions and I'm in my mode. She just slips in and it's like, she just grabs my feet and she just starts working through my feet. And it was just like, oh my God. I mean, that sounds so simple, but let me tell you,
everything you're missing
through it was just like having her there was so important, and she wasn't even a mom yet,
Wow.
So there's something I think that is divine about feminine energy surrounding feminine energy, especially when you are bringing like a human earth side like that, like, because like that, to me, that divine is in every woman. So it's like, whether or not she's had a child or she can have a child, that there's something to me very magical about that. So she was just the best support ever. And you know what? It was actually my ex-husband even says, he's like, yeah, like she was incredible. And he wasn't even giving birth. Like just having that other person there for him was really good, really good. So I would just tell you, like, get a doula, really get a doula. And just for that support.
Yes.
Honestly.
All the support.
All the love, all the support. Can we just cry now? Or are we just gonna cry? But it is gonna be. It's a magical thing.
I'm really excited. But I have for sure been trying to research doulas. I don't really know. Like, how did you even know like what you wanted her resume to look like? I mean, you're essentially like hiring somebody for a job.
Well, it honestly, I mean, obviously to me, it wasn't about her credentials. Not that she wasn't like a certified doula or however the certifications come. It was more about my connection with her when I sat down with her. Yeah. That's what it was about. It, like, to me, I live my life and I make decisions all on like gut and all on intuition, especially those. And some people would be like, well, that's not logical, but it's like, well, I know what I need and I definitely trust my intuition. And sometimes you just vibe and you just connect with someone. And you talk to them about, what your concerns are or what you want or what you think you want. And they can talk about what they provide. And like, it's not as hard as you think. I personally would say to you, trust your gut. Don't look as much at like, it's not like that sort of thing. Like, you're going to be, if you think about it, you're going to be in the most vulnerable hours of your life when you are literally giving birth to another human being. So you just kind of want to make sure that, to me, fuck the credentials. Yeah. Fuck the credentials.
Seriously. Like, do I want this person in the room with me?
Do I want this person supporting me? And they're in a time that, again, that is like one of the most, I think, other than most probably dying, that's one of the most, as a woman, your most vulnerable.
Yeah.
I mean, especially your first time too. Like, you are a mom.
Yeah.
You're a mom right now. You got that baby growing in you, but like there's a power that just comes with that. Like, you'll look at yourself totally differently after that. But then again, have you thought about things like, well, what if, regardless if it runs in your family, postpartum can happen to anybody?
I'm terrified of that.
Mm-hmm. Have you thought about?
There's not many people, like, I find stuff online, but not that many people talk about it.
There's a lot of shame in it.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes, when postpartum can get pretty bad, people have these, feelings like they want to hurt their baby. And although they really don't want to hurt their baby, there's a very huge imbalance going on hormonally and all of this stuff. So what they're experiencing really maybe isn't, it's just, again, I mean, it's kind of uncomfortable to say like, I feel like I want to smother my baby. I mean, that may be. And I think there's a lot of shame in it. And so, but people really totally need that sort of support and that open dialogue. You should totally have that open dialogue with your mom. And it seems like you do.
Yeah,
you're
sure.
Like your best friend. So just having that dialogue with people that you can trust, and, You know, when they say to you, like, how are you feeling? Like, you really tell them, like, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
You know, like, are you feeling sad? Are you feeling depressed? Are you feeling, you know, like the first 6 weeks I was, aside from, you know, like my vagina being sore and not getting sleep and all of that, I was like kind of nailing it. I mean, I really didn't have any issues with, I was like happy. Like I loved my boy. I was fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
You know, but I was definitely okay. But some troubles for me didn't come until later, actually.
Yeah.
It didn't come until my son was probably almost about a year.
Yeah.
Or a little bit before that. Yeah. So, yeah, just, you know, making sure you have all your bases covered, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a real thing. I'm already terrified of it. I'm like, Mom, what if I want to give it back? Like, what if I'm like, I'm not cut out for this? Like, what if I don't even like the baby? What if I don't feel connected to him? I mean, there's no guarantee that just because a baby grows inside of you for almost 10 months and you pass it through your vagina, that you're going to love it and, you know, have this connection with it. Like you said, I feel like there's a lot of moms that are terrified to say it out loud that they didn't feel that way.
Yeah. And you know what? But here's the thing. It's okay. Like, what, and
Right.
I'm telling you, welcome to motherhood. That goes through every, I think, whether they really verbalize it or not.
Exactly.
That goes through every, I mean, you don't think that although when I was pregnant, I loved being pregnant. I really did. Like, I was like, just, even Jeremy was like, dude, that was the happiest I've ever seen. Like, and I think probably some of that was like the hormones pumping through me from pregnancy. And also too, you know, breastfeeding can really help because that, you know, releases the oxytocin. That's what they call the love drug. That's like, yeah, that can really, really help you too. And it really helps with getting your stomach down and all of that kind of stuff, which is
that, I mean, I'm not going to lie. That is going to be a huge hurdle for me to jump over is the weight gain. I was asking my mom last night, I'm like, so what exactly like happens after you have the baby? Like, what does your stomach look like? Is it still like big? And she's like, you still kind of look pregnant. And I'm like, but is it soft? And she's like, it's soft. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awful. Like,
no, I mean, you know, listen, at that point in time, this is my opinion, this is my experience. So, you're just thrust into this new experience, an area of your life, and it's the most demanding thing that you will ever experience. I don't really think initially you're really even fucking thinking about your stomach. Honestly.
Really?
No.
I guess it's like that
when you
selflessness
come home
that
with
I don't know about yet.
Again, this is all unknown for you. So that's why I keep going, welcome to motherhood.
It is,
you know,
so unknown.
Welcome to motherhood.
I'm like, wait, what could possibly supersede my like vain tendencies?
You know, I mean, at least you know them up front. At least you're like, okay, I know I'm vain about that, whatever. But you know, honestly, I think if you are thinking about your stomach when you first bring your son home, you need to get your priorities back. No, honestly, like, you know, because
I believe you.
I know, right? Like, not being rude, but it's like, you know what I mean? I think if you have time to think about your stomach, like especially in those first couple days that you come home, something's wrong, something's off. Call me. I'll be like, girl,
don't you have something better to do?
Yeah. Who's breastfeeding the baby? What's going on? Yeah.
Okay, good. I mean, I'm just like, I know everyone says that, but I'm like, yeah, but you look in the mirror, like you're still in tune with what your body's doing, you know? I don't know. It's something so trivial, but I mean, to me, it's not. Like, not to sound like a terrible person, but
you're not. Well, just because you care about aesthetics doesn't mean you're a terrible person. No, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't blob. You don't like. It's important to you. It'll be fine.
I'll just wear like high-waisted leggings for a while.
You know what? There are things. There are belly support things. Like there's belly bands that you can wear that'll help. You know, put a little bit of compression on your stomach. So you can look into that stuff. But honestly, like, so I'm about 14 pounds.
Yeah.
So I've always been super thin.
Same.
And you know, tiny all my life. I got a little booty though. I ain't gonna lie.
I saw.
I saw your booty.
I saw you shaking it yesterday.
Oh yeah, I was outside like I was outside suburban, and I had Beyonce on, so I was just like in mode, you know, like I'm jumper, and I just got into it. I was like, that's my own video, whatever. God, what were we talking about? Oh, the booty. Yeah.
Being small.
Yeah. So, and I will tell you that I gained, I think it was 38 pounds. It was just under 40 pounds. And the majority of it was like literally in the last month.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was all, I mean, again, there was a little fullness, like, like a little bit fullness to the face and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I was all belly.
Okay.
I was all belly.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, yeah. And I was active during my pregnancy. Like I didn't go work out, but there was nothing, I didn't stop anything. Like when I say active, like I really like to always be doing something.
Yeah.
So I was always doing something, whether it was
Yeah.
like I would be rearranging furniture or I would be running to this store, running to that store. Like I was not a rest pregnant person.
Me neither.
So I think if you like to do stuff and you're like,
Yeah.
then that's fine. Then you'll probably be good. I breastfed, and I will say that everything kind of left. I would say probably
That's what everybody keeps saying.
Everything pretty much left in about like 4 months, but I did have just this little pooch.
Yeah.
That honestly, I think with just some exercise and strengthening your muscles back up, like
Yeah.
fine. But
yeah,
I mean, and again, you just pushed out a baby, so it took. Remember this: it took 9 months for your body to grow this human being. You're not gonna be yourself the next day.
Yeah.
It's a process. That's why, like, if I can just encourage you to like love yourself for where you're at, like love yourself and be like, okay, I don't know, I didn't think my ass would look like this today, but it does. I just grew a human being in my body.
Yeah.
I just gave birth to it. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people, having kids is such a like, well, everyone has kids, but if you really stop to think about the fucking magic of like acting, like I'm putting a goddamn child inside my body and then it's coming out of my vagina. I mean,
right.
And then
you
my
can't
body's
dismiss that.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like well, everyone has kids. That's part of like, that's what our species does, but it's actually really fucking magical.
It is.
Yeah. Like, and you are a fucking warrior goddess. Okay. So just own that. Seriously. Seriously, you are.
Warrior goddess. No.
So have you thought about though, like, do you want to breastfeed your son?
Yes.
Can I say his name or?
Yes.
Are you going to breastfeed Conrad?
Yes. And that like, I'm not going to lie. Like I've wanted a baby for a really long time, but that doesn't mean I know anything about raising a baby. So that support that I've gotten, especially since I announced it, like the mom community is such a thing. I have had more conversations in the last 4 or 5 days than I have in the last 4 or 5 years, probably. But everybody has told me all of the benefits about breastfeeding and how incredible it is and how almost magical it is. Like it doesn't even make sense. Like you lose all this weight and you feel amazing and you feel more connected to your baby and your baby gets all of these benefits nutrients wise that it needs. So I
will definitely tell. I breastfed my son for 17 months.
That my goal is 2 years.
Yeah, that was initially I was like, okay, a year. And then once I had him and then I started getting into it, I was like, oh, we're totally not stopping at a year. Like, I mean, that's like only 5 months away, and he's like hooked on the boob. So, and I loved it too. It's a thing. So we went, and it was about, like I said, the 17-month mark. At that point, he had, once you introduce solids and stuff like that, and as it goes on from there, there is kind of a little bit of a diminish, and then. I noticed that we were really only breastfeeding, like right before his nap. So we took like 2 or 3 naps a day. So right before his naps, and it's really he's not like feeding. It's more just that kind of bonding comfort. And all of that. But I just started to have a lot of like hormone issues at that point. And I was like I feel like mentally and emotionally going into the red zone with like just not feeling stable, because my hormones were all over the place. That I was like, you know what, I probably just need to wrap this up. And for me, I went in, I took him in for his afternoon nap, and I just knew that I just had to pull the plug. We sat down, and he sat on me, and he went to, and I said, no more, baby. And he just looked at me, and I swear to God, it was like, he looked at me, he knew what I was saying, and then he just like started crying, and he just held me. like he just held on to me, and I just held him, and I was just like, oh my God, my son never tried to breastfeed again.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
But I'm talking about like, that's what I mean by like just and not everybody's experience is that I just did a great fun call with our mutual friend, Kristen, who was telling me about how Rowan is like, he's
relentless.
Relentless.
He's
And
not
he's
going
like,
anywhere.
yeah, he's like real aggressive about it, and don't get me wrong, my son was like super into the boob. I mean, still, he's 5 and like he'll lay in bed with me sometimes and he'll like just want to put his hand down and like just like and I'm like, I don't care, but I'm just like, all right, babe, like these are moms, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I really do attribute all that to like just the bonding of breastfeeding and all of that. Put it this way, it wouldn't surprise me if my son's a tits guy when he's older.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's maternal. They can't help it.
Yeah, exactly. So what have you thought about your birth?
I haven't thought about that as much as anything else, honestly. I guess I just assumed that I would always just get an epidural. Like I would always just go in and like on the movies, you go in and your water breaks, and then they're like, "Do you want an epidural?" And you say yes, and then they give you the drugs, and then you have the baby.
And you know what? I would definitely.
That's as far as I've gotten.
I will definitely say, and I'll bring all this information to you when we have dinner tonight.
Yes.
There are some documentaries that you should watch, I think, before you really kind of make a decision. It's called The Business of Being Born. That was the first one.
Okay.
Just really educate yourself, I think.
That's exactly what I want to do.
And like I said, everything's open to change. Like I went into my birth, like no epidural, all natural through the vagina. And 20 hours in, I was so exhausted. Like I knew like if there was no way no way I was going to be able to have the strength to push my son out. Yeah. So I did get the epidural, and that actually allowed me to sleep for like an hour or two, which was like heaven, and my body, naturally kind of
set your threshold.
Yeah. So like I said, again, everything's open to change, but you can still have an idea of what you want to do. But I would really recommend that, as well as, like I came from a family, not that I knew what my father or my brother's penis looked like, but like I knew that they were circumcised, and then
I'm struggling with that.
Well, here, okay. And then every guy, other than like, I think it was 2 that I had been with in my years, they, the majority of the penises I came in contact with were circumcised. Yeah. And so that's just like my thing. I was like, oh.
Right.
And Jeremy's circumcised. So it was like when we found out we were having a boy, my brain, again, automatically, from a societal point of view, like, oh, well, I mean, he's just going to be circumcised. And Jeremy went, no, we're not circumcising him. And I'm like, really? I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're circumcised? I don't get it. Like, and he's like, well, first of all, we're the only country that circumcises. He's like, you go anywhere in Europe and everyone's not circumcised.
Yep.
And number 2, he's like, I'm not mutilating him. Like if he wants to have his skin cut back, that's a decision that I want him to make as his own person. I'm not making a decision for him. And so at that point, because I was presented with this information, then that sent me down a road of like, oh, let me look into this.
Yeah.
And as I looked into it, I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm circumcising my child. And so he's not circumcised. My son, he's had no issues. It's self-cleaning. It's, it's totally natural.
It's natural.
And not only that, they have more sensation and feeling in their penis, actually. So when they're older, they're going to have a lot more sensitivity there than a man that has, been circumcised.
Yeah.
I was like,
so that was one of the
these are all things for you to like to think about.
I know. That was one of the first things when I was like, oh, it's a boy. Like, oh shit.
Penis talk.
I have to figure that out. Like, there's going to be a time at the hospital when they're like, are you doing this or not? And I need to have come to an educated guess or some sort of conclusion to what I'm going to do. But, that is like, God, talk about controversy too.
Well, you know what? Oh, it is. But here's the thing that I can say to you. Educate yourself on it, and then go on YouTube and watch a video of a little newborn baby being circumcised, and then decide if that's what you want to do to your child. Yeah. Again, these were all like areas that I was just on that automatic path of like what everyone does.
So it was until like literally, someone at like I think Krista was like, "Are you getting him circumcised?" And I was like, "Fuck, I don't know. What is that a question? What do you mean?" And she was like, "Well, here's some information. I'm not swaying you one way or the other." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is a huge deal. This is a huge deal, like massive deal. Like this is a little baby that I'm gonna make a decision for, a major decision for, right off the bat. So it's very stressful."
Well, you know what? Like I said, during your you have all these months. I know you're going to be working and everything, but you have all these months to, when you do have your time off, you can really sit with yourself and you can really think about it, and you can read books about stuff. You can watch documentaries, and then come to this conclusion that you're like, okay, you know what? This is what feels right for me and Conrad.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's nobody's business but mine and his future sexual partners. So.
Well, you know, it's so funny you said that, because initially when I was like, wait a minute, like, you know, I prefer a circumcised penis. Like, I don't like, you know, and again, it's like, whatever. Like, no, I'm not throwing shade at you, Dylan, you know, my son. But like, I prefer a circumcised penis. And then it hit me. I went, well, you're not having sex with your son, so it doesn't matter. You know, if he's not circumcised or circumcised.
Right.
So it's like, don't worry about it. Take yourself out of it. Yeah.
Exactly. That's true. That's very true. Yeah. No, I appreciate all of the reading material or watching material that you want to throw my way, because I mean, I have no idea what I'm doing, honestly. I have no clue what I'm doing.
But here's the thing. Nobody really does. Yeah. Nobody really does, Courtney. And if there's somebody that tells you that they do, there's experience. People can have a lot more experience than you and stuff. And you know, you can take those things into consideration, those nuggets of advice that they give you. I mean, there are going to be people that are annoying, you know, with just like, you know, you have to do this or you should do this or whatever it is. But again, if you can just stay focused on, you know what, this is like, it's me and Conrad, and, you know, I'm going to gather all of this, and I'm going to bring all of these things home, and I'm going to put them out, and I'm going to see what feels right for us.
I'm very excited. Very excited. And like I said, like, just like moms in general, it's like a whole new world that opened up once I came out with being pregnant. I mean, it's been amazing.
My company started because I think it was about 8 or 9 months after, this is like your interview. I feel like I'm talking too much, but after 8 or 9
No, I want all of it.
After like 8 or 9 months of being home with my son, stay at home, I realized that I was enamored and in love with being his mom, but I felt like that's all I was. And for me, you know, there's nothing wrong with just momming it. There's nothing wrong at all. But for me, I realized that I really needed something else. And I needed, and I've always been a super creative person. So it really started one night at my kitchen table. I put him to bed and I just started doodling. Like, I never doodled ever. And I started doodling and like kind of coming up with like cute little things to put on a onesie, you know, for him. And then really, I mean, that's how my company started. So, and then once I started that, I realized, I kind of pulled back and I went, where is this brand for me? Because I didn't relate to this idea of, well, now you're a mother. What the fuck does that mean? Like, what, not Jen anymore? Like, I'm not. And that's another thing. There is, when I say identity crisis, for some women, it is a crisis. And for some women, it's just they're aware that there's a big change. But that is something that when I created the Modern Motherhood brand from LB, I wanted to create not just a brand, a lifestyle brand that for single women, they're transitioning out of single life, you know, and whether they're with somebody or not, that doesn't matter. That's, by single, I mean no children, because that's a game changer. So they're transitioning out of that, but they still want to honor and be who they are now with this added title. And I feel like that's where LB came from, is that I wasn't just going to be sitting in a driveway watching my son go around a cul-de-sac like that, you know? And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Other moms, don't get offended that I said that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but it didn't fit me. So that's how it started.
It's not a death sentence, motherhood to your social life.
But you know what? And I can say I'm so excited you're having a boy. There is something about a love between a mother and a son for his mother. Like I laid in bed with my son the other night, and I think I was just having a hard day, and
Yeah.
I think I was feeling the mom guilt because it's fucking real, and I just looked at him. We were snuggling, and I'm like, and we were just forehead to forehead, and I said, Dylan, I'm so sorry. I'm not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. And he interrupted me. He goes, Mom. And I said, what? He goes, you are perfect.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Cannot.
Did. You'll meet my son sometime. You'll love him.
uh, I keep hearing that over and over about like the mom and son thing, and I'm not gonna lie, I was really sad about having a boy, and then I felt guilty about being sad. Because for me, I was like, well, it's funny because now that I think about it, now that I've accepted it, not that that's like, I don't even mean that in a bad way, but I was like, well, if I'm gonna do this all on my own, it would certainly be easier, essentially, to have a girl. There would be familiarity there. I'm like a total girl. I love everything girl. I always wanted like a little best friend, like my mom was for me. And then I found out it was a boy, and I was initially bummed out, honestly. And now I'm like, well, the universe is like, if you're doing this, there is not going to be ease. There is not going to be familiarity. Like, you're doing this all on your own. So I'm excited now. But everyone keeps saying that, like that it's a real thing. That
It really is.
Yeah,
But the real thing too. My son is just like a tornado of energy, and I mean, I have a fucking hard time with it sometimes. I do.
oh God.
Dude, chill out. But I just want so you don't feel guilty. When I was set that I was having a girl, and that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And when I found out, I'll never forget this. When I have video of it. But when I found out I was having a son, I was devastated. I was
Yeah.
absolutely devastated because
Yeah.
for 5 months, or however long it is until you can find out the sex, 5 or 6 months. So for 5 or 6 months, I was bonding with a girl.
Yeah.
In my head, her name was going to be Luciana. I was going to
Yeah.
call her Lucci for short. I mean,
Yeah.
did all of this, and my world was shattered in that moment. And
Yeah.
but I can definitely tell you that once I allowed myself to go through that kind of grieving process,
Yeah.
basically I became pregnant all over again. And then I started that journey, and I knew we were going to name him Dylan. So it was like,
Yeah.
then I was working on him.
Felt reconnected.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
the whole latter part of my pregnancy, I was now bonding with Dylan.
Yeah.
So just to encourage you that, things.
It took me, I mean, for me, I found out really early because I did the Harmony test. So it was like the blood test where you can find out I'm only 11 weeks, and I found out the other day that I'm having a boy. So for me, I didn't get too attached to the idea of a girl, but I kind of always knew it was a boy. Like I just knew it was a boy. But it was like I had this like huge part of me that I had like planned out, doll houses and ballerina costumes and ponytails,
Well, hey.
everything that I wanted so badly.
Hey, don't not put. I mean, my son, like Jeremy and I are growing his hair long, and he's got man buns. It's the cutest thing ever. So, yeah,
amazing.
Don't give up on that. Okay, you can grow his hair long.
I'm going to.
Yeah. Are you going to do anything? Can people follow your journey? Are you going to be public about it?
I do intend to be super public about it. And I definitely want to start a blog. I haven't even looked into it yet. I just know that I want it to be super honest. When I was looking around at similar stories to mine, I couldn't really find much. What I found was a lot of like psychologists writing about why you should or shouldn't do it, or directing you towards like sites with books that you could read about how to make it easier. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to be an adventure, a learning curve for sure. So I feel like I wouldn't mind like sharing that if anybody cared, or just to have documentation for myself too,
I think number one, it would be awesome for you to have documentation for yourself, but also for Conrad. But I do think in this modern day and age, there may be women that are in your situation that are like, look, I've got my career under my belt. I'm totally independent. I haven't found someone that it's going to work but I want to be a mom. And
Yeah.
I think that people need a place. And that's why I really wanted to, when I found out about your story, like I want to do this for the first Empower show because, I think a lot of times there is shame that comes with maybe a woman saying, I want to do it by myself.
Yeah.
Or
saying that you want to be a mom over a wife. I mean,
Exactly.
It's true. People don't get it. There's like a chicken or egg sort of scenario here that a lot of people are confused by,
Yeah. But I think that your story is beautiful. And like I said, I posted this morning, just courage and love. Like the fact that you've been loving this little boy for the past, since you were a teenager. You didn't even realize that you were loving the boy. So all of that love is like going into him. And I'm so glad that you have all this support.
Me too.
Because that is super, super important.
I know.
And hey, now you have me. We're in Atlanta. And
we're BFFs now.
We're BFFs. But yeah, I'm just super excited for you. So I think you can actually follow Courtney on Instagram.
Yes.
You on Instagram. Okay. And what is your handle?
Miss Jewell.
Okay.
2 L's.
At MISSJEWELL.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. Like I said,
thank you.
I'm honored to tell your story.
Honored.
And yeah, I will be watching you, following you. So.
Well, you'll be having dinner with me.
3 hours. Mom, thank you.